Hi, and welcome back to Your Future, Your Finances. We're continuing our conversation regarding the economy with Anirban Basu of Sage Policy Group. And some of the occupations that you shared there are examples of, I guess, what's referred to as like middle America jobs. And there's this term in the news, they say hollowing out of the middle class. What does that mean, hollowing out?
Just that. I mean, the impact of technology and globalization, there really has been a hollowing out. I mean, there are fewer people who earn middle income. So we've seen the middle class get smaller. More people have moved to the higher end of the income spectrum, people who are highly educated and understand how to use technology. And then more people have been pushed out of the middle class because they've been displaced by those very same technologies. And so that's not going to change. I mean, people can try to halt globalization in its tracks. They're not going to stop technology. And so that's what they're talking about. But that should not be confused with the notion that there aren't middle income opportunities. There are a lot of them. It's just that people have not been trained for those opportunities, or they don't recognize that those opportunities exist. There's some antipathy, for instance, toward construction. You see a lot of young people do not enter the construction trades. They don't want to work outdoors, or they just don't think it's prestigious enough. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of really well-paying jobs there, and a lot of construction firm workers end up starting their own firms. And, not that money is everything, but they end up making a lot of money. Yeah. Some of them get rich by their late 20s because they start their business in their early 20s, for instance. So there are those opportunities, and while it is true that globalization has affected us and technology has affected us and dislocated many people, the fact of the matter is it's created some opportunities too, and the labor market doesn't take full advantage of some of those opportunities.
Yeah. We talked last segment about inflation or rising rates, then we have the employment issue. What are some other risks you think we're facing this year?
So many. So I mean, we are, as of right now, we're talking at a time when the Dow is racing towards 20,000. The NASDAQ just hit a record just minutes before you and I sat down together. The S&P is neatly above 2,200. The bond market seems inflated. There's some evidence of bubbles forming in the multifamily and commercial real estate markets. So there's some excesses built up in the economy. My feeling is that tax cuts and stimulus could see us through 2017 and maybe 2018. But there are some imbalances that are built up in the economy. So the bigger risks are probably in the longer term. But if one is worried about 2017, one might worry about trade wars, interest rates racing higher faster than people would think, would presently predict. Of course, an equity market correction could also affect the economy. There's all kinds of things. But those are the leading risks, I think, to the economy. Financial market adjustments that are negative as opposed to positive.
You mentioned trade wars. So talk a little bit about like how that goes from, for lack of a better word, a tweet to actually happening, like a law or a fight between the countries. How does that happen?
Oh, sure. So the two largest economies on the planet, America, $18 trillion in output per annum, China, $12 trillion. So these two are sort of playing with fire, insulting each other back and forth. Some people like Twitter, some people like other media by which to express their dissatisfaction with the state of affairs. In any case, the point is they need each other. It is absolutely true that the Chinese run a massive trade surplus with the Americans. That's absolutely true. However,
so just real quick, trade surplus. So they send more stuff than we send
much more.
To them.
Much more.
They build everything and then they send it back.
That's exactly. But plus, we also have more purchasing power. I mean, we are a higher income nation, so we have more capacity with which to buy. And so, but we still manage to export about $100 billion in output a year to the Chinese, and so we benefit from that as well. And so the fear is that this relationship will fall apart. The World Trade Organization, those treaties will fall apart, and that all of a sudden we'll see tariffs and quotas and other restrictions to trade, and the world will become less efficient. A lot of complaints about trade, international trade. NAFTA and the TPP and all these things came up in the election. But the fact of the matter is global trade has been slowing for quite some time. That the pace of global trade was growing 6-7% per annum before the Great Recession, since then around 3% per annum, and since 2014 hardly at all. So global trade has already been slowing down, and not coincidentally, the global economy has been quite soft in recent years. And so if the two biggest economies in the world come to loggerheads, that could be a problem for everyone, not just America, not just China.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll have to watch and see, I suppose. Another question I always like to ask of as many different individuals that come on the show as possible is, let's say somebody's watching this and saying, rather than pick one of those industries that he just talked about, I'd like to maybe be an economist for a living. What advice would you have for them?
Hard to imagine that that's what someone would want. But we actually do have a lot of young people who want to intern with us, love the notion of studying the economy and public policy and trying to understand interest rates and so on and so forth. And so, in general, people who major in economics need to go on to get a graduate degree. There's actually not that much demand for people who only have a bachelor's degree in economics. Generally speaking, you need a graduate degree. Many, of course, go on to teach. Some work for corporations. Some work for agencies. I happen to start my own business. That's what I wanted to do. But I needed that graduate degree. And one of the things that I think economists can do to separate themselves is to communicate well. Technicians generally don't communicate very well. One of the reasons I think our firm has been pretty successful and will make payroll on Friday is that we communicate the implications of our analytical findings, I think, very well. And other economists, I think, that, they want to show how smart they are through brute econometric strength and, very technical equations, so on and so forth. Picking the right instrumental variable is of enormous importance to economists, but it's not of enormous importance to the balance of the world, I have to tell you. No. What they want to understand is what's going on in the world, how does this change my life, where can I find a job, what program should I enter, should I buy that house or should I buy, that car or rent that apartment? And that's, I think, where we're most useful.
Yeah.
Very practical information to try to help people make day-to-day decisions.
Absolutely. All right. We'll wrap up with a website where people can find you.
www.sagepolicy.com.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks for appearing.